Howdy, and welcome to episode number 5 in my inspiration series for the breakfast tea and bourbon riddle. This one is going to be about birds and planes. Lori from the Calazar's Grand Adventure Facebook group, she mentioned how the St. Louis Cardinals Stadium, where the Cardinals is a red bird, could be the location of where we're looking for. And in our riddle, we have a bourbon red. Everybody has probably looked it up, and it's a type of turkey that was used in raising turkeys. It is now no longer used, but you've probably looked up bourbon red and saw that it is Bourbon County in Kentucky where it was made, where they came from. And there are plenty of other places that we can associate birds for our riddle, in addition to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri. So some of those places are Turkey, Texas, like I mentioned in a previous video. There's also a Turkey in Kentucky. Again, we're going to stick with Kentucky a lot for our source of bourbon. Included in that is probably the pretty well-known brand of bourbon called Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey, the distillery is in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Another one, since we're trying to go for this case of bourbon called Buffalo Trace, I happened to go to the Buffalo Trace distillery this past summer. It's in Frankfort, Kentucky. I thought it was a pretty good free tour, and I would recommend, if you're interested in a distillery tour, that Buffalo Trace has a pretty good one. Also from the Calazar's Grand Adventure Facebook group, Dan mentioned that there was one of our potential locations. Again, we're looking for a location for figuring out the riddle, is a maternity ward. And when he said maternity ward, my first thought is to the stork, which in sort of the folklore, storks bring the babies. And I was when I heard maternity ward, I was thinking stork. I don't know if that's what Dan was thinking of, but that's where my mind went. Another idea I had was with the bourbon red turkey in Rhode Island. We have a state bird where I grew up in Rhode Island called the Rhode Island red. So a bourbon red turkey, Rhode Island red chicken. I wasn't able to make a connection, but maybe someone else can make a connection. Another idea I had was kite. Again, with the verb fly in the riddle, you not only fly, travel through the air, but you fly raising a flag, and you fly a kite. So one of the thoughts I had was, a kite is also a type of bird. There are red kites. Unfortunately, in looking it up, they only sort of exist in Europe and Africa. So that doesn't really help me too much here. Even looking for a statue, I couldn't find a statue. Another idea I had was, since we're looking for a 4-inch by 4-inch plot of land somewhere in the United States, was a weathervane. And a turkey has all kinds of different birds and animals or even objects like ships that they put on weather vanes. I thought maybe a turkey weather vane would be the possible location for the answer to the riddle, but I wasn't able to come up with a good location for a turkey weather vane. So in addition to birds, we also have birds in mythology, and one of those is a phoenix. And you're thinking, I need that bird to rise from the ashes of central Arizona, get me a case of bourbon. So, birds, mythology, a location, Phoenix, Arizona. That was one of my ideas. Another idea I had is there are lots of aviation museums in the United States. And in addition to birds, there are planes that have nicknames that are associated with birds. For example, this is a museum in Oregon, and they have the famous spruce goose from Howard Hughes fame. There are other planes with bird names. This is the SR-71 Blackbird. It's in the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum in Northern Virginia, and if you haven't been, I've been able to see this one. It's in near Dulles Airport, just outside of Washington, D.C. I think it's a pretty good aviation museum if you haven't been there. It's not the one on the mall. It's in Virginia, and it's a bigger space, and they have additional things if you haven't been there in a while. So you're going through different aircraft nicknames. I found this particular website, and I was coming down here. I was like, well, they have one for Turkey. They do have one for Turkey, and they have the nickname Turkey for the Grumman F-14 Tomcat. You might know it better from the movie Top Gun, where Tomcat's not a bird, but they have the nickname of, they call it the turkey when it's sitting on the ground and they have the wings folded back, that it kind of resembles a turkey. And so that was one of those things where I was hoping I could find a plane and then find a particular aviation museum, but didn't quite work out for me. Maybe you guys can figure it out. That which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, and strong in will. To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Have a good one.